W5FC.
Mr. Chairman, I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
Anyone need to use the repeater before we begin the 9 p.m. Skynet?
Well, I'm glad to get on the radio today. It's,
This is KF5 PDS. My name is Billy, and I'll be your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. And happy field day, everyone. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy. Our purpose is to help amateurs become more familiar with the nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. This net is open to all amateurs interested in this topic, and we encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for this net. Stations with priority or emergency traffic may enter the net at any time by using the pro sign break in your call sign. Is there any emergency or priority traffic? This is a directed net. Please do not transmit without direction from net control. That would be me. And stations are reminded to ID at the end of your transmissions. This weekly net operates on 146.880 megahertz with a PL tone of 110.9. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible using the W5FC-R station ID or Echolink node 37247. Tonight's topics, astronomy charts, pictures, and live audio-video links are available online. Go to www.w5fc.org right now for the complete list. And remember to tell others about this popular net. All amateur operators are welcome. You need not be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. The net is 90 minutes long and is structured in several parts. General announcements, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, where and when you can look through a telescope, National Space Society events, discussion topic of the evening, space exploration and space history, Was Up and Constellation of the Week, space launches of the week, recent astronomical discoveries, visible satellite passages over the next couple of days, astronomical Q&A, and our 73 round. All amateurs licensed to transmit on this frequency are invited to check in. So at this time, I will turn the net over to my alternate net control, Tom, KE5ICX, if you will do the check-in honors, please.
And this is KE5ICX, Kilo Echo 5 India Charlie X-ray. My name's Tom. I'll be your alternate net control this evening, so I will take low-power short-time check-ins. Please come now with your call sign phonetically, your name, where you're transmitting from. Low-power short-time.
November 5, Whiskey Oscar India, William and Alan, short time, N5WI.
AC3 CDU short time.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Papa Foxtrot Charlie, low power, North Dallas.
All right, let me go ahead and get those. I've got N5WI, William and Alan, he's short time. I got KC3CDU, I think over on Echolink. That looks to be Tim, or Timothy. I've got you, Tim. I got KF5P, and this is a long time. KF5PFC, I should know who that is, but I got you low power North Dallas. Any other low power short time, please come out. Okay, let's go to regular check-ins. Not that anybody was at your... let me ask, short time. Did anybody on that round need to speak now? I think we just had one short timer, but if you do, please come out. general check-ins now. If you would please come now with your call sign phonetically, your name and where you're transmitting from. Please, general check-ins.
November 5, Bravo, Bill in Irving.
This is Kilo Golf 5 Echo India Uniform, David, St. Paul, Texas.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Zulu, Bravo, Lima, Bill, Farmers Branch. Kilo 5, Golf, Lima, Delta, Randy Frellis.
This is
Alpha November 5, Alan and Dallas.
This is Alpha 5, Alpha Hotel, Robert Richardson.
This is Kilo 5, Kilo Tango X-Ray, Kelly in Quinlan.
This is Kilo 8, Alpha Mike Hotel, Aaron in Dallas. Kilo Foxtrot 5, Juliet Hotel Alpha, Chaz, Mesquite.
This is Kilo Golf 5, Whiskey Victor Lima, James in Carrollton.
Okay, seems like a good place to pause. Let me go ahead. There was a double and a very weak signal, so if you don't hear your call, check your mic and check your power. I probably didn't get you because of that. So we have N5WOI, William and Alan. Oh, I got you on short time. I can't even... Wait a minute, I got all these guys. Okay, first off, I got N5BB, Bill in Irving. KG5EIU, David, St. Paul. K5ZBL, Mr. Bill, Farmers Branch. K5GLD, Randy in Rolette. AA5AH, Robert in Richardson. K5KTX, Miss Kelly in Quinlan. K8AMH, Aaron in Dallas. KF5JJ, Chaz in Mesquite. And KG5WVL, that's James in Carrollton. I'll take additional over air. Please come with your call sign phonetically, your name, where you're transmitting from.
Kilo 5, Alpha November 5, Alan and Dallas.
All right, picked up one more. That's K5ANP, Alan in Dallas. I think that was my weak station earlier. I did get you this time, Alan. Okay, let me go over to Echo Link. If you'd like to join us via that mode, please come now with your call sign, your name, and where you're transmitting from. I will give you extra time. Echo Link only, please.
Whiskey 0, Mike Bravo Charlie, Shane, Blue Springs, but with Craigie, my 1-year-old, right now. 05, Juliet, Delta Whiskey, John in Norman, Oklahoma.
Okay, there were 4 check-ins, but I only got 3 of them. The fourth person I was trying to had very low audio, and I just couldn't quite pick you up. I couldn't tell if you were on Echolink or elsewhere. So I do have K5. Oh wait, I got you. K5AMP. I got that. My goodness, I'm having all sorts of problems today. W0MBC. That's Shane and Craigie in New Springs, Missouri. Welcome, guys. K5JDW, John and Norman, and anyone else over on Echolink. I'll take your check-ins now.
Golf 5 Bravo Zulu Whiskey J near Weatherford.
Oh, okay, I think that was my weak audio station before. I didn't quite pick it up, but that's KG5BZWJ near Weatherford. Jay, you may want to double check your mic or the volume, transmit, microphone. Something's up there. It's a lot lower than normal. You're usually a lot louder than that, so I think a setting got set down. Okay, anyone who would like to check in now, any mode, please come with your call sign phonetically, your name, where you're transmitting from.
This is Kilo Golf 5 Uniform Kilo Uniform David Mesquite.
Oscar Sierra Hotel Russ, Farmers Ranch.
Kilo Foxtrot 5 Tango Sierra Kilo Burl in Dallas.
Kilo 5 Alpha Lima, Patrick in Dallas.
All right, I will need to fill on the last call, but let me get everybody else checked in. I got KG5, UKU, David in Mesquite, K5OSH, Russ in Farmers Branch, KF5TSK, Burl in Dallas, and then I had a kind of a broken signal there. I think it was Pat or Patrick in Dallas. Could you give me your call again? You might want to do it twice because you were very broken into the repeater.
Yes, sir, yeah. Wayfire South Dallas. Kilo Golf 5 Alpha Papa Lima. Kilo Golf 5 Alpha Papa Lima. Patrick in Wayfire South Dallas.
Excellent, I got you that time. KG5 APL, that's Patrick in Dallas. Any other check-ins before we move on? Please come now with your call sign, name, where you're transmitting from.
Check.
Okay, well, we'll come back in a little bit. There may have been somebody trying to break in, but I'm looking at the list on Echolink. I think everybody's in, so we will move on. We're up to 23 check-ins, so send it back to net control, KE5ICX.
Thank you, Tom, and happy field day to everyone. May be transmitting from. I hope you're having a good time, and glad to hear so many people on. That's a real great 23 check-ins so far. Woohoo! So welcome all to Skynet. All right, do we have any general announcements for this evening's net? These can be ham, astronomical, space, or of general interest to licensed hams. If so, please come now with your call sign. Not hearing anybody come forth with any announcements. Let me remind you, Skynet presenters, don't forget you can claim points for public outreach in the amateur radio for field day, so make those points count. All right, I have a few announcements of my own. The AMSAT Radio Amateur Satellite Group has 2 nets available to Dallas residents on Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. Central Time. You'll need Echolink installed and you registered. You can find the net under Groups and AMSAT. Also, a live audio link is available on their website at www.amsatnet.com, and this net originates in Houston, Texas. The Dallas AMSAT net, Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas, is every Wednesday at 9 p.m. on the Arlington repeater, which is 147.140 megahertz with a PL tone of 110.9 and a positive offset. The DARC have several Monday night nets during the month. First Monday of the month is Ham Fixin's net. If you want to come share recipes or just see what recipes are being shared and copy down some good ones, there's always good recipes being shared. If you have a question about food or an anecdote, feel free to share it on Ham Fixin's net. The second Monday of the month is MCOM 101, Emergency Communications. The third Monday of the month is the second helping of Ham Fixin's net. And fourth Monday of the month is GeekNet. All kinds of geeky news gets shared on the GeekNet. News of the weird, brain teasers. If it's geeky, movie, book, anything geeky, feel free to share on GeekNet. And some months there are a fifth Monday in which we'll have a Monday night surprise net. We've done loads of rounds of Jeopardy. We had Christmas Thunderdome where we talked about best and worst Christmas presents of the year. April Fool's Truth or Lies, a round robin, build your own short story, and there's been lots of things shared on the surprise net, but it's always a pleasant surprise on the fifth Monday surprise net. And of course Saturday nights is the night of nets with TechNet from 7 to 8 p.m. and of course Skynet at 9 p.m. And at 10:30, following Skynet, we'll have the Afterglow Movie Net, and we'll have more information about the Afterglow Movie Net shortly. The ARRL net, National Traffic System Training net, is every night at 6:30 p.m. Central Time, so all are welcome to check in on any or all of these nets. All right, so as I mentioned, following Skynet at 10:30, we have the Afterglow Movie Net. So if you've never joined us for Afterglow Movie, the way it works is we usually select a movie on the previous week's Afterglow Movie Net, and then we watch it during the week, and then we come together on the following Saturday and discuss the movie. We talk about plot, we talk about characterization, special effects, music, and any other kind of trivia or interesting factoids about the movie. We share it, and we have a great time doing that. We do good, it's mainly sci-fi movies. We do good movies, bad movies, and anything in between, so we usually have a great time doing it. Mostly it's like classic sci-fi, some great B movies, and even CD or unquestionably fine films, what we have the trademark fine film. So at this point, I will turn the net over to Tom, KE5ICX, if you'll give us tonight's Afterglow info. This is KF5PD, KE5ICX.
All right, thank you, Miss Billy, and this is a good one, not a bad one. Next week is the bad one. This week is a good one. Tonight's Afterglow info is as follows. The Boy Scout troop kids were most interested in getting their merit badges before reaching 18. Time was running out. The year was 1912, when radio badges required 25 word per minute Morse code while also performing simultaneously semaphores blindfolded, not to mention walking on hot coals. Being a scout in 1912 was difficult, to say the least. Indiana Jones, however, was pursuing a simpler badge. Capture a grave robber stealing the golden crucifix at Coronado by using a bullwhip. Yes, I know, that's a lot of signage for a merit badge, but it was a lot easier than walking on that hot coals thing. Sure enough, Indy saw his prey, a guy on a passing circus train, flaunting the crucifix and giving the young scout the thumbs down. He unfurled the whip. Which end do I use, he thought to himself. Join us for the next Afterglow movie, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade from 1989. If you've seen this movie, you've chosen wisely. Back to you at 10:30 tonight. We'll be talking about it. Back to Net Control, JE5I6.
Great. Thank you very much, Tom. Yes, do join us at 10:30 for the Afterglow Movie Net. And you can keep up with all DARC events, nets, and activities by going to the club website, w5fc.org. This is KF5PDS, Billy, your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet on Field Day weekend. All right, next up is Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, where and when you can look through a telescope. So if there's anyone on frequency that can give us information about the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, please come now with your call sign.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Juliet Hotel Alpha.
KF5JAK, Chaz, our resident professional astronomer. What information can you give us tonight about the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas? Good evening.
Why, thank you, Doctor of Mathematics. This is Chaz, KF5JHA. The next meeting of the Texas Astronomical Society is going to be on July the 24th. We just had a meeting last night, and it was wonderful. It was on Zoom. Doctor, I don't think he has a PhD, does he? Don Pettit? I don't know. Kelly would know. She knows his bio forwards and backwards. Anyway, Don Pettit, a NASA astronaut, was our featured speaker. And he talked about amateur astronomy on board the ISS. And he showed us several different pictures. I wish he would have shown us more. He talked about other ones that he'd taken, but he didn't show a lot of them. He showed quite a few and even some videos. That's on his spare time. Don Pettit's also an amateur radio operator, KD5MDT, and he was interviewed on this net about 5 years ago. If you want to look at that interview, you can see that. Just go to YouTube and search Don Pettit interview, Skynet, March 21, 2015, and you can find that. That's on my YouTube channel. So, okay. So that was our meeting last night. Next month, July the 24th, I think I heard it correctly. The person that's being interviewed, that's giving our talk is Dr. Andrea Blalis, I believe. I don't know much about this speaker, and I don't know about the topic, but hopefully by next week I'll have more information about that. Of course, we don't have any of the observing sessions face-to-face on Saturday nights, and sometime soon we might be getting through with this, although we're going backwards on opening instead of forwards, so I'm not sure how soon that's going to be. But hopefully on Saturday night, sometime we'll have telescopes set up. If you want to find out up-to-date information about what the Texas Astronomical Society is doing, go to their website, texasastro.org. That's it for me, KF5JHA.
Thank you very much, Chaz. Appreciate it. And just can remind you that you can find out more about the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas at their website at www.texasastro.org. And hopefully, we're all staying safe, so it can't do as much public outreach as we normally can, but we'll get there one day. So if in the meantime, we can just follow along what's on the website, participate in Zoom meetings, and keep up as best we can. So it's good that they're able to do that. And Don Pettit is a very interesting astronaut to listen to. He's had some fantastic experiences. And man, I can't believe it's been 5 years, Chaz, because I was there for that time when he was on Skynet, and our own Kelly, K5KTX, was conducting the interview. She was in CS that weekend. So that was a lot of fun. So thank you for bringing that information. Does it have any information about the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas? If so, please come now with your call sign. not hearing anything, so at this time we'll turn to our next segment, which is National Space Society events and activities. So at this time I'll call on Bill, N5BB. Do you have any news for us tonight from National Space Society?
Thank you very much, Billy. This is N5BB. I happen to be the membership director of the National Space Society North Texas chapter. If you have any interest in the National Space Society, you can contact me at space@byrom.net. That's SPACE at BYROM as in man.net. Well, because of the COVID-19 shutdowns, we haven't had any events since March, any public events. We've had a lot of Zoom and WebEx meetings, but no public events. We were hoping a few weeks ago that things would get better in Texas and the Frontiers of Flight Museum would hold Moon Day, although we were told officially that they thought they were going to open for Moon Day. They used some weird terminology that it might not be a full opening. And with what's happening this last few days, my guess is it won't be open. So we probably will not do Moon Day. Even if it was open, most of us would not risk going over there with that kind of crew in public. So we're just kind of hunkered down, doing our things via email and virtual meetings on the internet. Sorry, no more information in 5BB.
Thank you very much, Bill. Appreciate it. This is KF5PDS, Billy, your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. All right, next up is NCS topic of the evening. So tonight I have an article. You know how Wikipedia is. You look up one thing, and then you click on another thing, and then it leads you to two more things, and then you find something, that you are like, I've never heard of this before. So in looking for my search for NCS topic tonight, there's one topic I was going to do, but then I found a link that I thought, maybe I'll do that one first. So I do have something for next month that'll be interesting. But this month I ran across something that's a term that we've always used, and we all know what it means. I've learned a little bit deeper meaning as I was reading this article. So this article from Wikipedia, we all know what Twilight is, right? And I'm not talking about the sparkly vampire kind. I'm talking about the regular twilight when the sun goes down. Did you know that there were 3 different classifications of twilight? Maybe you did, maybe you didn't. I did not. So this was something that I learned as I read this article. So as we all know, twilight on Earth is the illumination of the lower atmosphere when the sun itself is not directly visible because it's below the horizon. So we all know that when the sun goes down, we call that, twilight, and then night follows that. So, twilight is produced by sunlight scattering in the upper atmosphere, illuminating the lower atmosphere so that Earth's surface is neither completely lit nor completely dark. The word twilight is also used to denote the periods of time when this illumination occurs. So the lower the sun is beneath the horizon, the dimmer the twilight, other factors such as atmospheric conditions being equal. When the sun reaches 18 degrees below the horizon, the twilight's brightness is nearly zero, and evening twilight becomes nighttime. When the sun again reaches 18 degrees below the horizon, nighttime becomes morning twilight. Owing to its distinctive quality, primarily the absence of shadows and the appearance of objects silhouetted against the lit sky, twilight has long been popular with photographers who sometimes refer to it as sweet light, and painters who often refer to it as the blue hour after the French expression le bleu. Twilight should also not be confused with auroras, which can have similar appearance in the night sky at high latitudes. The collateral adjective for twilight is crepuscular, which may be used also to describe the behavior of animals that are most active during this period. So the geometric definition of twilight is defined according to the solar elevation angle theta sub s, which is the position of the geometric center of the sun relative to the horizon. There are three established and widely accepted subcategories of twilight: civil twilight, which is near the horizon, nautical twilight, and astronomical twilight, which is the farthest from the horizon. First up, let's talk about civil twilight. Morning civil twilight begins when the geometric center of the sun is 6 degrees below the horizon and ends at sunrise. Evening civil twilight begins at sunset and ends when the geometric center of the sun reaches 6 degrees below the horizon. Under clear weather conditions, civil twilight approximates the limit at which solar illumination suffices for the human eye to clearly distinguish terrestrial objects. Enough illumination renders artificial sources unnecessary for most outdoor activities. At civil dawn and at civil dusk, sunlight clearly defines the horizon, while the brightest stars and planets can appear. As observed from the Earth, sky gazers know Venus, the brightest planet, as the morning star or evening star because they can see it during civil twilight. Lawmakers have enshrined the concept of civil twilight. Such statutes typically use a fixed period after sunset or before sunrise, most commonly 20 to 30 minutes, rather than how many degrees the sun is below the horizon. Examples include the following periods: when drivers of automobiles must turn on their headlights, when hunting is restricted, when the crime of burglary is treated as nighttime burglary, which carries stiffer penalties in some jurisdictions. Period may affect when extra equipment, such as anti-collision lights, is required for aircraft to operate. In the U.S., civil twilight for aviation is defined in Part 1.1 of the Federal Aviation Regulations as the time listed in the American Air Almanac. Morning nautical twilight begins when the geometric sun is 12 degrees below the horizon in the morning and ends when the geometric center of the sun is 6 degrees below the horizon in the morning. Evening nautical twilight begins when the geometric center of the sun is 6 degrees below the horizon in the evening and ends when the geometric center of the sun is 12 degrees. So from 6 degrees to 12 degrees is nautical twilight. Nautical dusk is the moment when the geometric center of the sun is 12 degrees below the horizon in the evening. It marks the beginning of evening astronomical twilight and the end of evening civil twilight. So before nautical dawn and after nautical dusk, sailors cannot navigate via the horizon at sea as they cannot clearly see the horizon. At nautical dawn and nautical dusk, the human eye finds it difficult, if not impossible, to discern traces of illumination near the sunset or sunrise point of the horizon. Sailors can take reliable star sightings of well-known stars during the stage of nautical twilight when they can distinguish a visible horizon for reference. In other words, after astronomic dawn or before astronomic dusk. Under good atmospheric conditions, with the absence of other illumination during nautical twilight, the human eye may distinguish general outlines of ground objects that cannot participate in detailed outdoor operations. Nautical twilight has military considerations as well. The initialisms BMNT, beginning morning nautical twilight, and EENT, end evening nautical twilight, are used and considered when planning military operations. A military unit may treat BMNT and EENT with heightened security, for example, by standing to, in which everyone assumes a defensive position. This is partially due to tactics dating back to the French and Indian War, when combatants on both sides would launch attacks at nautical dawn or nautical dusk. Of course, when we get to 18 degrees below the horizon, we reach astronomical dawn and dusk. So astronomical dawn is the moment when the geometric center of the sun is 18 degrees below the horizon in the morning, and astronomical dusk is the moment when the geometric center of the sun is 18 degrees below the horizon in the evening. After astronomical dusk and before astronomical dawn, the sky is not illuminated by the sun. Some places, away from urban light pollution, moonlight, auroras, and other sources of light where the sky is dark enough for nearly all astronomical observations, astronomers can easily make observations of point sources such as stars both during and after astronomical twilight in the evening, and both before and during astronomical twilight in the morning. However, some critical observations, such as of faint diffuse items such as nebulae and galaxies, may require observation beyond the limit of astronomical twilight. Theoretically, the faintest stars detectable by the naked eye, those of approximately the 6th magnitude, will become visible in the evening at astronomical dusk and become invisible at astronomical dawn. However, in other places, especially those with sky glow, astronomical twilight may be almost indistinguishable from night. In the evening, even when astronomical twilight has yet to end, and in the morning when astronomical twilight has already begun, most casual observers would consider the entire sky fully dark. Because of light pollution, observers in some localities, generally in and near large cities, may never have the opportunity to view anything but the brightest stars, irrespective of the presence of any twilight at all, nor to experience anything close to a truly dark sky. Other planets, twilight on Mars is longer than on Earth, lasting for up to 2 hours before sunrise or after sunset. Dust high in the atmosphere scatters light to the night side of the planet. Similar twilights are seen on Earth following major volcanic eruptions. So there's some interesting information on the different classifications of twilight. I hope you learned something as well as I did and enjoyed that. So next month I'll bring a different topic. So thanks for listening. And this is KF5PDS, Billy, your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet on Field Day edition. All right, so let me move on to the next segment here. Let's see, next up is space exploration and space history. So at this time, I'll turn the net over to Kelly, K5KTX. The net is yours.
Thank you, Billy. This is K5KTX. Good evening, everyone. So we are getting very, very close. We are less than a month away from the launch window for the Mars 2020 rover named Perseverance. And so tonight, for a couple of months now, I've been talking about various technology that's going to be on the rover. Well, tonight I wanted to focus in on the helicopter. So NASA's Ingenuity Mars helicopter will travel with the Perseverance rover through 314 million miles of interplanetary space to get to Mars. But for the team working on the first experimental flight test on another planet, engineering the final 5 inches of the journey has been among the most challenging of all. To safely navigate those 5 inches, the distance Ingenuity will travel from where it is stowed on the rover to the surface of Mars. They came up with the ingenious Mars helicopter delivery system. Ingenuity's square fuselage, which houses computers, cameras, batteries, and the like, is about the size of a softball, 7.9 by 6.3 by 5.5 inches. But if you look outside the box, you'll find plenty of other important stuff, including an antenna, solar panel, landing legs, and 2 rotors measuring 4 feet across. That makes stowing and deploying the helicopter a challenge. The entire package tips the scales at about 4 pounds. Mission engineers considered every available parking space on the rover chassis for their unusual addition, including the robotic arm. They eventually landed on Perseverance's belly, which on a relatively flat stretch of red planet surface should offer about 26 inches of ground clearance. While that may seem like a lot of room, an earthly SUV provides about a third of that. The delivery system reduces that distance by about 2 inches. Ingenuity is about 19 inches tall. This is where the 5-inch journey comes in. That's not a lot of room to play with, but they found that if you attach the helicopter horizontally, there's enough to get the job done. Ingenuity will be deployed about 2 months after Perseverance lands on February the 18th, 2021. During early surface operations, both the rover and helicopter teams will be on the lookout for potential airfields. A 33 by 33-foot patch of Martian real estate that is comparatively flat, level, obstruction-free, and viewable by Perseverance when the rover is parked about a football field away. On around the 60th Martian day or so of the mission, Perseverance will drop the Mars helicopter delivery system's graphite composite debris shield that protected the helicopter during landing. Then it will drive into the center of the chosen airfield. About 6 days later, after the helicopter and rover teams are satisfied, everything is go, they'll command Mars helicopter delivery system to do its thing. The deployment process begins with the release of a locking mechanism that keeps the helicopter in place. Then a cable-cutting pyrotechnic device fires, allowing a spring-loaded arm that holds the helicopter to begin rotating Ingenuity out of its horizontal position. Along the way, a small electric motor will pull the arm until it latches, bringing the helicopter body completely vertical with 2 of its spring-loaded landing legs deployed. Another pyrotechnic fires, releasing the other legs. And all the while, the deployment system has to maintain electrical and data cable connections between rover and helicopter until it's ready to drop. If all goes well, mission controllers will command the delivery system to release, and Ingenuity will cover those last 5 inches. Once a good drop is confirmed, Perseverance will be commanded to drive away so the helicopter can begin recharging its batteries with its solar panel. At that point, the 30-sol clock on Ingenuity's flight test program begins. The Ingenuity Mars helicopter is an experimental flight test of new technology. Future Mars missions could enlist second-generation helicopters to add an aerial dimension to their explorations. They could act as scouts for human crews, carry small payloads, or investigate cliffs, caves, deep craters, and other unvisited or difficult-to-reach destinations. But before any of that happens, a test vehicle has to prove it's possible. And before the test vehicle can do any of that, it has to land safely on the surface of Mars. The Perseverance rover is set to launch between July 20th and August 11th, and it has been pushed back a couple of days to July 22nd, and it will land at Mars's Jezero crater on February the 18th, 2021, no matter which day that it takes off. And in space history this week, beginning with June the 21st, back in 2004, the first crewed private spaceflight completed a suborbital mission. Spaceship One was an air-launched, rocket-powered suborbital aerospacecraft designed and built by Scaled Composites of Mojave, California. Spaceship One was designed to carry 3 people, including the pilot. At 50,000 feet, the spacecraft launched in midair from the underside of its mothership, White Knight. The suborbital spacecraft had a service ceiling of 367,360 feet, traveled at a maximum speed of 2,170 miles per hour, or Mach 3.09, and weighed 2,640 pounds. Many firsts were accomplished by Spaceship One. It was the first privately funded aircraft to exceed Mach 3, reach 100 kilometers in altitude, and have the ability to be reused. Spaceship One retired less than 2 years after its initial flight, having achieved the goal of winning the Ansari X Prize. Spaceship One now hangs in the Milestones of Flight Gallery of the Smithsonian Institution's National Air and Space Museum, sharing the space with the Spirit of St. Louis, the Bell X-1, and the Apollo 11 command module. Now, I thought I read somewhere where Spaceship One was going to be at the Frontiers of Flight Museum here in Dallas. I could be wrong about that. Maybe Tom can share a little bit about that later. On June the 22nd, back in 1973, the first Skylab crew returned to Earth from the United States' first space station. Astronauts Pete Conrad, Paul Witz, And Joe Kerwin launched on the first human mission to Skylab exactly 11 days after the lab launched first. The crew was originally scheduled to launch the day after Skylab, but heavy damage to the station during launch put the whole program in jeopardy. Conrad, Witz, and Kerwin now faced a rescue mission and spent the next week and a half training and equipping for their new task. By the end of the mission, the crew had installed a solar sunshade to regulate the station's indoor temperature, released a solar array wing that had been jammed closed, and made Skylab functional again. In addition to making future flights possible, the crew also accomplished much of the scientific work that had originally been planned. The mission lasted 28 days, setting a new U.S. spaceflight duration record, one that doubled the previous record. On June 23rd, back in 2011, the Stratospheric Observatory for Infrared Astronomy, or SOFIA, observed Pluto's occultation of a distant star. A challenging feat, SOFIA captured the moment Pluto passed in front of a star, causing it to cast a shadow upon the Earth. Data from about the Plutonian atmosphere was collected during the occultation, enhancing our knowledge of the dwarf planet. SOFIA made a similar observation in June 2015, just weeks before the New Horizons probe flew by the Pluto system. SOFIA is a modified Boeing 747 SP aircraft carrying several instruments, including a 2.3-meter infrared telescope. A joint effort between NASA, the German Aerospace Center, DLR, and the university's Space Research Association is the world's largest airborne observatory. And finally, Florentine astronomer Galileo Galilei discovered Jupiter's moon Callisto in 1610. For this discovery and others, a NASA spacecraft sent to orbit Jupiter at the end of the 20th century was named Galileo in his honor. In 1992, nearly 4 centuries after its namesake made his famous discovery, the Galileo probe visited Callisto. On June 25th, 1992, Galileo made its second close flyby of Callisto, coming within 416 kilometers of the heavily cratered surface. The Galileo probe also visited Jupiter's other moons and orbited Jupiter 34 times, traveling a total of 4.6 billion kilometers. Its mission was terminated in 2003 when Galileo was intentionally plunged into Jupiter to avoid a collision with Europa that might have contaminated that moon with Earth microbes. And that's all I've got this evening. This is K5KTX. Back to you, Billy.
Thank you very much, Kelly. This is KFI-CDS Billy, your net control for this session, field day session of Skynet. All right, next up is What's Up. But before we go to What's Up, I was going to send it back to Tom, KE5ICX, if you'll see if we have any more check-ins. And then you have my permission to move it on to Chaz after a check-in round. So this is KF5CDS to KE5ICX.
Aye, Captain. I'll do exactly that. This is KE5ICX. I'll take additional check-ins. If you'd like to join us this evening, please come now with your call sign phonetically, your name, where you are transmitting from.
This is Whiskey Bravo number 4, Mike Foxtrot, India, WV4MFI, Ted, Dallas, Low Power. Check.
All right, there were 2 stations. I got Ted, WB4MFI, in Dallas, low power. There's a second station, I think on Echolink. You were half a bleep, so I couldn't tell who you were. If you want to type in the chat box, then please just type it in there and I'll get you checked in. I also want to mention that Brenda, WB5OZL, is also checked in. Anybody saw her on the camera, she's here. So I'm not seeing anybody over on Echo Link currently. I see JJ. I'm going to check him in, N5IMS, because he's always on this net in Carrollton. It may be him, I'm not sure. But I'm going to put him in anyway, since he's always here for this net. All right, that's 2 more. We're up to 25, Miss Billy. So next up is Chaz, KF5JHA. You're up from KE5ICX.
Well, thank you, Tom. Thank you, Billy. Good evening, everyone. This is Chaz, KF5JHA. My degree is in astrophysics, and I'm the astrophysics lab manager at Brookhaven Community College. We call this segment of Skynet Was Up, and I'm also doing Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week. But let's get to the segment of What's Up first. Yeah, if you're over on Echo Link, you see I have a hashtag after my name. It says Days, because this is field days, right? Okay. The moon was at its new phase on days. Hey, how about that? The moon was at its new phase on June the 21st, so the current phase of the moon is a waxing crescent. The moon will be at its first quarter tomorrow on June the 28th, and the moon will be full on July the 4th. So watch the full moon rise as the sun sets while you wait on the fireworks on July the 4th. And on the July the 12th, it's third quarter moon, and on the next new moon will be on July the 20th. The planet Mercury will go through an inferior conjunction of the sun on June the 30th. That's just in a few days. What does that mean? That means that Mercury is going from the evening sky into the morning sky. And on Thursday morning, I was up early, about 5:30 in the morning. It was clear that morning. Over in the east, a really bright object. That was Venus. Directly to the south, really high up, was the planet Mars. And over in the southwestern sky, I saw Jupiter and Saturn. So I saw 4 planets, if you want to include the Earth. I looked down, I saw the Earth too. I had 5 planets I saw that morning, so that was kind of fun. On the night of July the 4th and 5th, there will be an eclipse of the moon. Now, it's going to be a penumbral lunar eclipse. I don't think much about these things, and let me explain why. There are 2 parts to the Earth's shadow, a darker part, which is called the umbra, and a lighter part called the penumbra. This eclipse will be when the moon just goes into the lighter part of the Earth's shadow, the penumbra. So the moon will only fade just slightly in brightness, and then only just part of the moon. At 10:07 p.m. on July the 4th, the moon will begin to enter the penumbra. By 11:30 p.m., this is July the 4th, the maximum eclipse, with about 35% of the moon being inside the penumbra, will occur. It's going to be difficult to notice. It just dims ever so slightly. By 12:52 a.m. on July the 5th, the moon will leave the penumbra and the eclipse will be over. You really can't tell on photographs most of the time with a penumbral eclipse, and it's hard to tell unless it gets really deep into the penumbra with your 2 eyes. But if you see it, maybe you can report it on next. Oh, you can't report it on next Skynet, because it'll happen after the Skynet is over next week. On July the 5th, look in the southeastern sky around 11 p.m. to find a trio of objects. The brightest object will be the moon. Above the moon is Jupiter, and to the left of the moon will be Saturn. Now, Jupiter and Saturn are getting closer and closer to each other in the sky. On the evenings of December the 20th and 21st, that's the end of the year, but around twilight. Hey, we heard stuff about twilight tonight, didn't we? Jupiter and Saturn will be so close that they will appear as a single object to the unaided eye. Telescopes, you'll see Jupiter and Saturn in the same field of view. Of course, Jupiter and Saturn will not be close to each other in outer space. They'll be more than 300 million miles apart from each other. On July the 8th, get up early and look toward the east. Venus will be inside the Hyades star cluster. In fact, it'll be centered in it. We'll get to that more in just a few minutes. Remember that the Hyades star cluster is the face of Taurus the Bull, and this is the second time in less than a month that Venus has passed through the Hyades. It has to do with the motions of the Earth and Venus, and there's going to be another event I'll talk about that's just 4 days later. Watch around 1:30 a.m. on July the 11th for the Moon and Mars to be in conjunction in the eastern sky. Remember that the Earth and Mars will be getting closer and closer together. And on October the 6th, it'll be the closest, Mars will be the closest to the Earth than it has been since the summer of 2018. Back in 2018, we had 15 telescopes and hundreds of visitors at Berkeley College observing Mars. It's probably unclear if we're going to do public observing session for Mars this time because of, well, the COVID situation we're in. On July the 12th, you could observe Venus in the conjunction with Aldebaran. Now, that's the brightest star in the Hyades, and it's one of the bright red eyes of Taurus the Bull. So Aldebaran is part of the Hyades star cluster, and it'll make a great photographic opportunity. Take the opportunity and do that. And a few mornings later, on July the 17th, the Moon joins Venus and Aldebaran in the Hyades star cluster, and this is early in the morning. Once again, take advantage of these and go out and do some observing. Or if you've got a camera, try it. See what you can come up with. Now, there have been 2 meteor showers that I've talked about in June. One was June Lyrid, that was back in June the 16th and 17th. So the second meteor shower actually peaked last night, June 26th, 27th, and that was June Lupus. You might find some meteors even visible tonight if you get away from the city lights, but with the hazy stuff from Sahara Desert, you might not see that many. The Lupus meteor shower can have between 0 meters and more than 100 meters per hour. Okay, that's the end of the What's Up segment, and now the beginning of Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week. And my call sign is KF5JHA, and this is Skynet. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week, which is named in honor of a silent key, Carolyn KC5OZT. She contributed to Skynet each week, almost from its beginning in 2012 until May of 2019, with a detailed look at one particular constellation each week. Since there are about 52 constellations easily seen, and there's a few more beyond that, but there's 88 constellations. 52 out of the 88, well, there's 52 weeks in the year, so Miss Carolyn covered the entire sky in a year. In her honor, we've continued that tradition of a constellation per week. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week this week is Lupus. Lupus is a wolf. The stars that now form the constellation of Lupus used to be part of Centaurus, a constellation. Centaurus, half human, half horse. Yeah, okay. They represented a sacrificed animal impaled by the centaur. That's what Lupus was. The centaur was holding it toward the constellation of Ara, the altar. The constellation is not associated with any animal in particular until the Renaissance times, when Latin translation of Ptolemy's work identified it with a wolf. Miss Carolyn was heavily involved with variable stars. In fact, the Association of American Variable Star Observers, AAVSO, she was a member of, and she may have been a lifetime member. So it's fitting that 3 stars I've chosen to cover tonight in Lupus are all variable stars. Alpha Lupi is the brightest star. It has an apparent magnitude of 2.3. It is approximately 460 light years distance from the Earth. It is 10 times more massive than the Sun and about 25,000 times more luminous. Alpha Lupi is classified as a beta centaur, Cepheid. Excuse me, I'm mixing up constellations. Let me start this all over. Alpha Lupi is classified as a beta Cepheus variable. It exhibits a periodic variations in luminosity as a result of pulsations in its atmosphere. Has a period of about only 7 hours and 6 minutes. Beta Lupi is the second brightest star in the constellation. It has an apparent magnitude of 2.68 and is approximately 383 light years distant from the Earth. It is classified also as a beta Cepheus variable. It has a multi-period variable, and its dominant period is 5 hours, 34 minutes, but it has other periods embedded on top of it. There's a supernova remnant. I'll talk about that in a little bit. That's close by, SN 1006. Finally, the third star I'd like to talk is Delta Lupi. It's another blue-white subgiant, and its apparent magnitude is 3.22. It's about 900 light years from us. The star is about 10,000 times more luminous than the Sun and has about 12 times the mass of the Sun. It's also classified as a beta Cepheus variable and has a period of only about 4 hours. Wow. Some deep sky objects I want to talk about. NGC 5986. It's a globular star cluster, 33,900 light years distant from the Earth. The cluster has an apparent magnitude of 7.52, which is below what you can see with your naked eye, but you can easily see with a pair of binoculars if you're away from the city lights. It's only about 2.5 degrees north-northwest of the star Eta Lupi. NGC 5927 is another globular cluster located near the border of the constellation of Norma. Don't talk about that constellation much because it's really kind of far south for us to see. NGC 5927 has an apparent magnitude of 8 and is approximately 24,800 light years distance from the Earth. It was discovered by James Dunlop in 1826. NGC 5882 is a planetary nebula. Now, planetary nebulas are made by stars that go through, there's fireworks going on outside my apartment. That's fun. The planetary nebulas are formed when a star is toward the end of its lifetime, and it sort of puffs out its outer layers and forms this circular sort of bubble around it, and it looks like a sort of a round planet around the star, and the leftover star is usually a white dwarf. So this planetary nebula is Lupus. It has a magnitude of 9.4. It's also known as the ghost of Uranus because of its size and color, and it's so close to Uranus in size and shape in telescopes. So I guess, Kelly, you're not the only one with fireworks going on close by. NGC 5822 is a challenge object because it's so low in the sky it never hits higher than 3 degrees above our horizon here in North Texas. NGC 5822 is a large open cluster about 6,000 light years from the Earth, has an apparent magnitude of 10.28. It's a challenge. If you go into West Texas with a telescope or binoculars, see if you can find that one. And the last object I want to talk about is something you cannot see with your 2 eyes, but it was very visible. SN 1006. What does the SN stand for? Supernova. It's a supernova remnant. We can't see it from here on the Earth. The image, if you're looking at the video version, was taken by Chandra, the X-ray spectrum of the electromagnetic spectrum. Why am I talking about this unseeable object? Well, SN 1006. It's important because it was a supernova that is likely the brightest observed stellar event in recorded human history. It's estimated a brightness of minus 7.5. In other words, it was roughly 16 times brighter than the brightness of Venus. And Venus you can see during the daytime. It appeared on April the 30th and May the 1st in the year 10006 AD in the constellation of Lupus. Its guest star was described by observers across modern-day countries of China, Japan, Iraq, Egypt, continental Europe, and possibly even recorded on petroglyphs in North America. Some reports state that it was clearly visible in the daytime, and modern astronomers considered its distance from the Earth to be about 7,200 light years. And my call sign is KF5JHA, and this is Skynet. There are several more Astronomical League observing program objects in the constellation of Lupus. I have just given you a sampling of a few of these objects. The Astronomical League has over 60 different observing programs, most of which have around 100 objects. If you observe 10 of these different objects in a month, then you get an observing certificate. You earn it, and a pen in just a year. And that is Miss Carolyn's constellation of the week, Lupus. I want to thank all of my friends, Dave Hutchinson and Dennis Harwell, for their research on the deep sky objects that I've used tonight. And next week, we're going to talk about Corona Borealis. It'll be a crowning achievement to do that. Some of you know the joke involved with that. Once again, last night, the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas had its meeting on Zoom, and our guest speaker was Don Pettit, NASA astronaut. Now, I did some looking up. Dr. Amanda Bayless from the Southwest Research Institute in San Antonio will be our featured speaker on July the 24th at our task meeting. I'm sure it's going to be a Zoom meeting as well. I don't know the topic, but I'll see if I can find out their topic later on. To get more information about this, go to the Texas Astronomical Society website, texasastro.org. Now, do any of you out there in Radio Land have a question or need a fill on any of the information? Or do you just have a general astronomy question? I don't know everything. I love to hear questions, but I might know the answer to your question. So come down with your call sign if you have a question.
W2KJV with a question.
I thought I heard somebody on Echolink. I do want to welcome some students from Brookhaven College. If you're listening, the extra credit is over. The semester ends on Wednesday, so you can't use this as stargazing credit. But if you're listening, I hope you have enjoyed listening to Skynet over the last few weeks. So as the moon is waning in the middle of July, so do these words: stay safe, keep well, pray for our world. And until next week, keep looking up so you know what's up. And this is Chaz, KF5JHA. Back to our net control. That would be Dr. Math.
Chaz, this is KF5PDS, Billy, your net control for this session, field day version of Skynet. I believe there was someone that had a question, so if you would come with your call sign again and let us know what your question is, and we'll see if we have an answer for you. So station calling, please, again, call with your question.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, this is Tony. I'm here in Florida, W2KJV, and I stumbled upon the net, and I was trying to figure out why everybody sounded like, they sounded like they had poor signal to me. You sound okay. Kind of wondering, I'm not familiar with the net. I'm coming in through All-Star. Just happened to connect to another All-Star node here, and I'm thinking maybe it's how I'm connected. The reason why everybody sounds like they're having trouble getting into the system. Well, I guess my question is there a direct all-star route where I could connect up to hear the net maybe a little bit better, clearer, without all that static in the background?
Great question, and welcome to our net. We do this net every Saturday night at 9 p.m. This is Skynet on the Dallas Amateur Radio Club repeater. If you wanted to come directly into our Echolink node, it's Echolink node 37247. That will dial you right into our repeater, the W5FC-R repeater, rather than coming through a link station, a linking node. So if you want to try that, again, it's Echolink node 37247. Another reason you may be hearing folks with poor audio quality or lower audio quality than normal is this is Field Day this weekend. Fourth weekend in June is the national weekend for amateur radio to do what's called Field Day. So a lot of people are set up with remote stations either out in their backyard or at a park with adequate social distancing. So people are set up on remote stations. They are most likely not using their home base as their field day operation, so they may have lower audio quality than normal for that reason. But if you're on Echolink, I'm coming through fine because I'm on Echolink. I don't have a home base station, so I use Echolink to access the DARC repeater. So if you want, again, join the W5FC-R repeater, or you can use Echolink node 37247, and that will bring you right into our repeater and see if that improves things for you. So again, welcome to our net, and we hope that you join us every Saturday night at 9 p.m. So please continue to join us. All right, next up is space launches for this week. So at this time, I'll turn the net over to Tom, KE5ICX. If you will also do a quick check-in round, see if anybody else is out there that would like to check in before you go into your segments. You have space launches for the week, and I guess there's another segment before visible satellite passages. So again, Tom, if you'll do a check-in round and then do your space launches for the week. This is KFI-CDS to KE5ICX.
All right, Miss Philly, this is KE5ICX. I've got W2KJZ checked in. Maybe we'll see him over here on Echolink in a few minutes. Let me go ahead and take additional check-ins. If you'd like to join us this evening, please come now with your call sign, name, where you're transmitting from.
November 5, Lima, X-Ray, India, Joel and Lake Highlands.
All right, I got another station. I got N5LXI. That's Joel over in Lake Highlands. Thanks for coming, Joe. Let's see. Topic is space launches for this week. This comes from two different websites, spacecoastlaunches.com and spaceflightnow.com/launch schedule. The Spaceflight Now, of course, has all of the different launches throughout the world. So the ones coming up, I believe there was one today. I forgot to put it down. Supply mission, I think. No, it was one of the Starlink missions, but I don't have the information here because I didn't put it down. Because it already launched, I think. Next up, June 27, 28 will be the Vega SSMS launch from Kourou, French Guiana. An Ariane Space Vega rocket designated BB-16 will launch a small spacecraft mission, or SSMS, proof of concept, with around 50 microsatellites, nanosatellites, CubeSats for commercial and institutional customers. This ride-share launch is the first flight of a multi-payload dispenser funded by the European Space Agency, or ESA, to allow the Vega rocket to deliver numerous small satellites to orbit on a single mission. On June 30th, the Falcon 9 GPS-3 SCO-3 mission will launch from Cape Canaveral SLC-40 at the Air Force Station. The SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket will launch the U.S. Air Force's third generation navigation satellite, the GPS system. The satellite is built by Lockheed Martin. The Air Force previously planned a second GPS third series satellite on this mission, but it was delayed. On July 3rd, there'll be an Electron launch. Pix or it didn't happen. That's the name of the launcher. The launch time will be at 5:16 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time from Launch Complex 1 in Mejia Peninsula, New Zealand. A Rocket Lab Electron rocket will launch on its 13th flight on a rideshare mission. The Electron rocket will carry a CESat-1B Earth imaging satellite for Canon Electronics, 5 Super Dove Earth observation CubeSats for Planet and Faraday 1 CubeSat for in-space missions. Rocket Lab is nicknamed the launch, Pix, or it didn't happen. All right, the rest of these I'm going to dispense with for now, simply because these are to be determined, and it does get a little repetitious. So I'm going to stop there and give it back to net control at this point. This is KE5ICX.
Thank you, Tom. This week I didn't watch the launch, but I watched them do their spacewalk. The Crew Dragon, Bob Behnken and Chris Cassidy went out and did the spacewalk on the ISS. There was like a 6-hour spacewalk, and they're scheduled to do one next Wednesday. I'm not sure what time they'll start. They start early in the morning, like 6 or 7 a.m. our time. So that's something to watch for, too. If you're on NASA TV, tune in and watch them you can watch them do maintenance on the International Space Station. So that was really cool to watch. This is KFI's PDS, your net control for this session, the field day session of Skynet. All right, next up, I'll turn the net over to Brenda for recent astronomical discoveries. So WB5OZL, the net is yours.
Thank you, Billy. This is WB5OZL. Our article tonight is entitled Hubble Watches the Flapping of Cosmic Bat Shadow in the Serpens Nebula. The young star HBC 672 by its nickname of Bat Shadow because of its wing-like shadow feature. The NASA ESA Hubble Space Telescope has now observed a curious flapping motion in the shadow of the star's disk for the first time. The star resides in a stellar nursery called the Serpens Nebula, about 1,300 light years away. The Hubble Space Telescope captured a striking observation of the fledgling star's unseen planet-forming disk in 2018. This disk casts a huge shadow across a more distant cloud in a star-forming region, like a fly wandering into the beam of a flashlight shining on a wall. Now, astronomers have serendipitously observed the bat shadow's flapping. This may have been caused by a planet pulling on a disk and warping it. You have a star that is surrounded by a disk, and the disk is not like Saturn's rings. It's not flat. It's puffed up. And so that means that the light from the star, if it goes straight up, can continue straight up. It's not blocked by anything. But if it tries to go along the plane of the disk, it doesn't get out, and it casts a shadow, explained lead author Klaus Pontoppidan, an astronomer at the Space Telescope Science Institute in Baltimore, USA, whose team has published these results. This flapping finding was also a surprise. Pontoppidan, and his team observed the shadow in several filters over a period of 13 months. When they combined the old and new images, the shadow appeared to have moved. The shadow is so large, about 200 times the diameter of our solar system, that light doesn't travel instantaneously across it. In fact, it takes about 45 days for the light to travel from the star out to the best defined edge of the shadow. Pontoppidan and his team calculate that a planet orbiting the disk would orbit its star in no fewer than 180 days. They estimate that it would be about the same distance from its star as Earth is from the Sun. Pontoppidan's team also suggested the disk must be flared with an angle that increases with distance like a trumpet. This shape of its two peaks and two disks would explain the flapping of the shadow. The team also speculates that a planet is embedded in the disk, inclined to the disk's plane. If it's not a planet, a less likely explanation is a lower mass stellar companion orbiting HBC 672 outside the plane of the disk. Pontoppidan and his team doubt this is the case based on the thickness of the disk. There's also no current evidence for a binary companion. The disk is a circling structure of gas, dust, and rock and is too small and too distant to be seen even by Hubble. However, based on the projected shadow, scientists do know that its height to radius ratio is 1 to 5. This comes from ScienceDaily.com. Back to Nat, WB5OZL.
Great. Thank you very much, Brenda. This is KF5 PDS, Billy, your net control for this session, the field day session of Skynet. All right, next up we have visible satellite passages over the next couple of days. So again, I'll call on Tom to give us some information about that. This is KF5 PDS to KE5 ICX. And if you will also, at the end, I guess, do a final check-in round so we can start to wrap up the net, I'd appreciate it. This is KF5 PDS to KE5 ICX.
All right, Miss Billy, I'll do exactly that. The information I get comes from heavensabove.com. There's a little hyphen between heavens and above. Heavensabove.com. It's a wonderful website. If you do satellite passes, you can use this site as well for visible and invisible satellite passes. Amateur satellite, and a whole bunch of other stuff. The ones that I feature every week are visible satellite passages. So in this case, the International Space Station is a good choice. There was one this morning that was pretty cool, but you missed it. On June 30th is the next fairly decent pass. It's minus 2.8 magnitude at 4:06 a.m. out of 45 degrees out of the north. It will be coming out of shadow. It'll reach its highest point at 4:06:39. Again, 45 degrees in shadow, so it's about halfway over when it actually is visible. And it'll fall at 4:09 at 10 degrees in the northeast. The super secret space plane is making its appearance again. This one is, the next good pass will be June 28th. It just had a pass here about 10 minutes ago, but tomorrow there will be a good pass. Magnitude's never mentioned on this through the years that this has flown over the last 10, I guess. We've never had a magnitude, and I think it's because of the blade of heat shield underneath and the bright fuselage. It means that it could be of any magnitude, but you may be able to see it. It'll appear at 21:16 local time, reach its highest point at 21:19 at 68 degrees, and it'll fall at 21:22 to the east-southeast. Then finally, the Hubble Space Telescope has several passes that are pretty good. You got June 28th tomorrow. That one will be at 4:36 a.m. out of the south. It'll be 1.2 magnitude, reach its highest point at 40 degrees at 4:36, and then fall at 4:40 to the east-southeast. On the 29th, 1.3 magnitude at 4:26 a.m., 42 degrees this time in the morning, south-southeast. It will reach its highest point at 4:26 at 42 degrees of the south-southeast, and then fall at 4:29 to the east-southeast. Then we have, let me see, what did I do for the next one here? I guess the 30th, the next one, 1.6 magnitude, 4:16 a.m. again. Boy, you can set your clock to this. 37, oh, actually you could. 37 degrees out of the southeast, reaches its highest point at 4:16 at 37 degrees out of the southeast, and falls at 4:19:09 local time to the east-southeast. All right, we are close to done. I'll take any additional check-ins who'd like to join us this evening. Please come now with your call sign phonetically, your name, and where you're transmitting from.
Alpha Foxtrot 5 Delta.
Oh, that breaking station, you were real soft into the repeater. Could you give me your call sign again slowly and your name?
Yeah, this is Alpha Foxtrot 5 Delta. Name here is Bayou, Bravo Alpha Yankee United. Bravo Alpha Yankee United. The call is Alpha Foxtrot 5 Delta. Transmitting from Grand Prairie, Texas. Go ahead.
Bayou, okay, I got you. Alpha 5 Delta, I believe I got for your call sign there. And I got you in Dallas, so I've got you checked in. Any additional check-ins, please come now.
Correction, Alpha Foxtrot 5 Delta. Alpha Foxtrot 5 Delta. Go ahead.
I think I got it finally figured out. So it's Alpha 5 Foxtrot Delta. I was missing the F, Foxtrot. Okay, I think I got you that time. Anyone else wishes to check in, please come now.
It's negative. The call is 4 letter. The call only 4 letter. Alpha, Florida, 5 Delta. America, Florida, 5 Delta. QSL.
AF5D. I should ask you, Bayou, did I get it right this time?
No. Yeah, you got it right. Alpha Foxtrot 5 Delta. Go ahead.
All right, thanks. My apologies to you. I just had some trouble with it this evening. Okay, well, I have, by my count, 28 check-ins, Miss Billy. So I'll send it back to you from KE5ICX.
Tom, copy that we had 28 hams participating on the air tonight. So thank you to all who checked in this evening. We hope that you'll join us here next week and every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration. On this net, the sky is never the limit. We're always looking for net control stations for this and all the other DARC nets. If you would like to try your hand at this, contact any of the net controls by sending an email to nets@w5fc.org.
I'm completely operational and all my circuits
about
are
this
functioning
net and
perfectly.
astronomy in general on Facebook and Twitter, as well as audio and video archives and other useful internet resources by going to w5fc.org at the conclusion of this net. So until next Saturday night, this is KF5's TDS, Billy, and I'll be closing the net at 22:29 local time and returning the repeater to normal amateur use. So 7-3 everybody, and enjoy the evening discovering the universe. And enjoy Field Day. I hope you all make lots of contacts and have fun on Field Day. So 7-3 everyone, and remember to join us after this net for the Afterglow movie net coming up shortly. So 7-3 everyone.
you. This is still a great net. This is KE5ICX. We'll take about a 5-minute break. You know what you need to do. Come back. Our discussion will be the movie from 1989, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. 5 minutes from now. We'll see you then.
This is K5ANE, about to start up the Afterglow Movie Net here in a couple of minutes. Hello and welcome to the Afterglow Movie Net here on W5FC. We meet weekly at 10:30 on Saturday nights where we discuss the previous week's movie. This last week's movie was Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. If you have any emergency traffic, always feel free to break in with the protocol break break. I'll be your host tonight as Net Control, K5ANE. Let's get started. The Boy Scout troop kids were most interested in getting their merit badges before reaching 18. Time was running out. The year was 1912 when radio badges required 25 words per minute Morse code while also performing semaphores blindfolded, not to mention walking on hot coals. Being a scout in 1912 was difficult, to say the least. Indiana Jones, however, was pursuing a simpler badge: capture a grave robber stealing the golden crucifix of Coronado by using a bullwhip. Yes, I know that's a lot of signage for a merit badge, but it was a lot easier than the walking on hot coals thing. Sure enough, Indy saw his prey, a guy on a passing circus train, flaunting the crucifix and giving the young scout the thumbs down. He unfurled the bullwhip. Oh, which end do I use? He thought to himself. So, the normal format of this net is we'll go and have a round of checking people in, and we'll go and talk about characterization. Well, no, we'll start off with the plot this time. We'll get together and talk about the plot, and then we'll have another round of check-ins and talk about characterization, and then do another round of check-ins, and then we'll finish up and talk about whatever it is we want to. So let's go ahead and have our first round of check-ins here. Come on in with your call sign, your name, and if you saw the movie or not.
Oh man, somebody's got to be first.
Where's TV? It's just John to be first.
Be quiet over there. This is KE5ICX. My name is Tom. I'm in Louisville. I saw the movie. This is Brenda, WB5OZL. I saw the movie. I'm also in Louisville.
Alrighty, I got KE5ICX, Tom, and Louisville, who saw the movie, and I think I heard WB5OZL there. Alright, more check-ins. Come on in with your call sign, your name, where you're coming from, and did you see the movie?
This is going to be a really short net, the way it looks from here. Started an IV. Plano? Yes? I guess I did.
Kilo Golf 5, Bravo Zulu, Whiskey, Jason Weberg. I've seen the film, but not recently.
Foxtrot 5, Papa Delta Sierra, Billy and Sherman. Yes, I have seen the film.
I got KG5, BZW, Jake in Weatherford, who saw it a while ago, and I only caught the last three of the next call sign, PDS. Come again?
This is Kilo Foxtrot 5, Papa Delta Sierra, Billy and Sherman. And yes, I've seen the film. I watched it today.
All right, I got KS5, PDS, Billy and Sherman, and yes, you saw the movie just today. Anybody else out there that managed to watch, I don't know, any Indiana Jones movie? They're all, you know, roughly the same kind of thing. Anybody else out there? Come on in with your call sign, your name, where you're transmitting from, and if you saw the movie or not. right. I guess tough crowd tonight. Let's go on, and let's talk about the plot. KE5ICX, you're the first one to check in this time. Thanks for checking in first. What do you think of the plot of this excellent Steven Spielberg movie?
Well, I think you already nailed it on the head, Kane, which is that every Indiana Jones movie is the same. In fact, it always opens with the Paramount Mountain. Somehow, way, shape, or form, whether it be a very small version or a very tall version, it always starts with that. It always has a bunch of chasing people around in vehicles or on horses. There is always the bullwhip. There are always snakes. Why does it always have to be snakes? It's always snakes, right? We've got a little bit of an origin story in the Panama hat guy. We find out about how Indy ends up with the hat. That's really exciting. And, and River Phoenix is well, at any rate, let's see here. The good news is that it is kind of fun in the sense that we also get James Bond in the film. Henry Jones Sr., so he adds an interesting dimension, but we'll talk about that in a little bit, I suppose. I like the plot is rather thin when you think about it. There's not a lot. Hang on. The Shriner guy. When the Shriner guy in the boat tells Indiana Jones where to find his father, it's like it's on the back of an envelope or something. He hands him a handbill. For further information on Henry Jones Sr., please see the castle in Germany somewhere, or wherever the heck it was, Austria. Oh, I'm sorry, where the tapestries are kept. Austria. How does he know that? I mean, what kind of special information does he have? Apparently not enough, because he couldn't find Indiana Jones soon enough to stop him from finding the stuff in the first place, but he knows where his father is? What the hell is that all about? I'm getting excited here. But it ends well, and they go off into the sunset with the guy who gets lost in his museum, so it was okay. I didn't mind. The Nazis again, I hate these guys. So, it's got the typical formula. Just blank stuff. That's all you need. That's it for me. Hey, Brenda's next. Brenda says she's next. This is KE5ICX.
KE5ICX, this is K5ANE, your next control tonight for the Afterglow Movie Net. Thank you for that riveting analysis of the plot. Let's go on. Is there actually WB5OZL, or are we just hearing Tom again? WB5OZL, if you're out there, feel free to come on in and let us know what you think of the plot.
This is the real WB5OZL in person, transmitting from the mothership. I love all Indiana Jones movies, despite the similarity. And yeah, it's all formula. Indy jumps on a blank, train, truck, stagecoach, something, and he fights with a blank, Nazi, other bad guy. And then they have a fight, and then he jumps, or, blank, falls off, until the next time he jumps on something. But that's okay. We like to watch it, and he does it really well. I have to say, I never knew there was actually a real chalice. I thought that was just kind of a story. I was kind of surprised to see that it actually does exist. So that was illuminating. And not only that, but it's in the structure called Petra, which is in an actual place you could go visit now. It's like a national park. And it's in, where do we say that was from?
Jordan.
It's in Jordan. So next time you're in Jordan, visit Petra and see if you can find one of those chalices.
Nazis are always the bad guys, unless they're the wacky guys. Like that show with prison camp where they were all goofy. Other than that, they're really bad people. So, I don't know what's up with that. It's very stereotyped, I think. Maybe there were some good Nazis. I don't know. Maybe not. If you see a Nazi, you can just... They don't have to develop the story. You just know he's evil, and he's bad. Let's see. Yes, I enjoyed having James Bond there. Also, he's pretty good. And what else about the plot? Like the blimp, like the airplane, like all that stuff. But again, there's never been anybody in the history of the world that's been shot at more than Indiana Jones. All right, I'm going to leave it there. This is WB5OZL, back to net.
WB5OZL, this is K5ANE, your net control for the Afterglow Movie Net on W5FD. And I fully agree with both you and KE5ICX. A lot of these plots for all of these Indiana Jones movies, they're not the biggest thinker kind of plots out there, but it's enough of a MacGuffin to, really continue to push for, like, why is he running around and doing these things? Well, he's got to go do this. Well, why does he got to do that? Well, he's got things to do. Not exactly the strongest plots in the world and not the biggest, philosophical statements, but there are reasons for him to do the crazy things that he does and to have all the crazy explosions and adventures that he ends up having. Let's keep going here. WT9V, what do you think of the plot?
Well, one, thanks for taking the net tonight, because I didn't sleep at all last night. Am I actually talking at the moment? Anyway, I thought the plot, was there actually a plot? That, I think, is the best question, because I'm not actually certain there was a plot. Admittedly, I didn't watch all of the thing today. I watched most of it, and then kind of said, I'm running out of time. I'm going to have to skip forward, because I spent 7 hours in testing sessions today. I might have a problem. Somebody has to do an intervention. Never mind. It was completely... I don't really think it was a plot. It was just a whole bunch, a mishmash of things that were thrown together in the name of adventure. This happens, something else happens, and it and we are jerked around back and forth in all different directions. Although I'm, willing to bet that Miss Billy's going to make some sense out of this that I wasn't able to see, because she does that. She's dead like that. But anyway, I don't know. It just kind of like Brenda says, insert action here, insert more action here, insert something else. And personally, I'm not really sure that was Brenda. I think it might have been Rich Little pretending to be Brenda. WT9V.
WT9V, thanks for your insightful comments on both the movie and the fellow radio operators here. Let's keep going. KG5BZW, what did you think of the plot?
Well, this is a problem about the struggle movie I haven't seen in years. I look at the Wikipedia article before this. Unfortunately, I kind of, it was like right when this net started, so I was listening and reading that. And yeah, it is a little bit like WTNV says, just action all over the place. I don't know, I've always kind of felt entertained when I've watched it. My feelings about this compared to the other two, we aren't going to talk about the fourth. Not that the fourth is terrible or anything, it's just kind of weird and out there. Well, anyway, it's like sometimes I thought it was my least favorite of those three, and actually, like I seems like we may have, I don't know if this was scheduled for something. I can't remember how I watched it recently. I just decided I actually liked it better than the second one. I don't know. I think it's maybe a touch more character driven, just because you've got the I forgot what Jones Sr. is named, but so it's kind of like playing Indiana Jones off of some older version, if you would could say that, of sorts, which is kind of fun. But there really is a lot of action that's just, it's like one gets you to another place, and it's not like the actual actions are that important or memorable. It just gets you to the next point, which, if it gets you to the next point, it's kind of fine, but I don't know, it's like, I like the movie, I'd probably watch it again. But, it's like one of those things like, what else do I have to watch, and whatever. So I think I'll just leave it at that. KG5 BZW.
KG5BZW, this is K5ANE, net control for the Afterglow Movie Net on W5FC. Yeah, I definitely agree with you that, once again, there's not a ton of, an in-depth plot. There's enough of, a story that it, kind of twists and turns a little bit and whatnot, but everything always seems to just be very direct and, Indiana Jones needs to get this, so he goes and he gets it, and then he continues on and whatnot. And, it's always the best storytellers out there that can take the most boring, inane story in the world that's just a very direct, I went to the store and I picked something up and I came home. And it's like, well, you got a good storyteller. He can draw on that out for a whole half hour and keep you on the edge of your seat trying to figure out, gosh, did his car start? It started, and he got on the road, and then, they rode all these turns and things, and, that's Steven Spielberg. Steven Spielberg is an excellent storyteller, and even though this is a basic kind of story, we end up watching it, and we end up enjoying watching it, even though we kind of know what's going to end up happening in the end. Let's continue on. KF5 PDS, Billy in Sherman. What did you think of the plot?
Well, thank you. Out of all of the Indiana Jones movies, this one is my favorite. I enjoy the quest for the Holy Grail. I think it's really intriguing, and I love the way they lead to it. It's interspersed with lots of action, as is all the Indiana Jones movies. You have a story moving forward, but it's interspersed with all these action scenes, and maybe that's why people lose track of the plot, because there's a lot of action scenes that are interjected that take a while, and maybe by the time they pick up, people have kind of forgotten what's come before. I'm not sure. But to me, there's like two plots. There's the main plot, obviously the quest for the Holy Grail, and then the subplot where Indiana Jones has to go in search of his father. So, and I love this one in particular because we have the origin story for young Indiana Jones. We see him as a teenager and his shenanigans, and then how he continues that same quest for that same object for the Cross of Coronado, like 26 years later. It's like 1920 when he is a teenager and he first absconds with it, and then he runs across it again. And I'm assuming he's been tracking and tracing this thing, and maybe has had many encounters. And finally, in 1938, he catches up with this man one more time and finally gets the object that he's after. So I love the build-up and how we learn about Indiana Jones. We see how he gets his fear of snakes, how he, gets the scar on his chin, and all those different things we can talk about under characterization. But I love that part of the movie. So that, to me, is like the prologue. And then we're finally with Indy in adult times, and he finds out that his father's missing, so he goes in search of his father. So that's like quest A is for Indy to find his dad. And then we have quest B, which is the main one of once we catch up with Henry Jones Sr. and we're all reunited, then it's a march forward to find the Grail before the Nazis get it, which is kind of like the first movie where Indy was after the Ark of the Covenant and trying to get it before the Nazis got it. So it follows that same formula with some of the same tropes of running up into the truck and they close the truck and drive away. They did that in the Raiders of the Lost Ark movie, so that's revisited. I thought that was a fun return to that formula. So yeah, it's highly formulaic. But it's a fun formula. It's total escapism. It's what you want, like as a summer blockbuster movie. You want to go to the movies and escape, and this is a perfect escape. So I also found, it's a driving plot. Obviously, we're moving forward with the story with the quest of the Holy Grail, but there's loads of action. There's a dirigible. There's motorcycle with a sidecar. So you have some different vehicles than were in the first movie. The second movie to me was a total departure, and I think this movie is a return to the formula of the number one movie. So this to me kind of brought it back to Raiders of the Lost Ark feel. And I thought it was really interesting that when Indy is talking in the lecture hall, he said it's, forget any ideas you have about lost cities, exotic travel, and digging up the world. We don't follow maps to buried treasure, and X never ever marks the spot. And he also says 70% of all archaeology is done in the library. We cannot afford to take mythology at face value. And the whole movie is a direct contradiction to everything he says in that classroom. They go find a lost city. They do exotic travel to, to Petra, to Jordan, and to Iskenderun in Turkey. They these exotic places. They dig a lot of things in a library. So even though they're in a library, they dig up the library to get to stuff. X marks the spot of a main, plot point. And they took mythology at face value. They went through that book with religious fervor and took everything to heart, and it paid off, and the movie has a payoff. So, yeah, to me, it's got, everything you would want in like a fun summer blockbuster film. You just have to hang through. If you're not much into action scenes, you just have to hang through those. To me, some of those were a little too long, but they all had a purpose, and it all drove the plot forward. And even though it, kind of stalled out in the action world, and then you resume the plot, and then you get in another action situation, and then it would resume the plot. So it moved forward with lots of action interspersed, and that makes for a fun film. It's a good romp. It's a great, it's an Indiana Jones flick because it follows that formula. Love it. It's my favorite one of all four of the movies. So with that, I'll return it to you. This is KF5PDF, back to net.
Look what you did! Look what you did! I love that line. KF5 PDF, excellent analysis. I never thought about that in the opening scene where, he literally contradicts himself entirely throughout the rest of the movie. Excellent analysis. Thanks for bringing that up.
Let's see, are there any other check-ins for tonight? Tonight we're looking at Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade here on W5FC. This is K5A&E, your net control. Do we have any more check-ins? If so, come on in with your call sign, your name, and if you've ever seen any of these Indiana Jones movies, we can talk about any of them.
November 5, Hotel Yankee Papa. Yes, I saw the movie. We saw the movie multiple times. Lots of fun.
All right, I caught November 5, Hotel Yankee Papa, and yes, you saw the movie. What's your name?
Sorry about that. I had to put the headphones on. Name is Tom, Tango Oscar Mike. Holly and I saw the movie. We're in Irving, and I'm putting away field day here.
Well, hey, awesome. We're glad you're stopping by and having a good time at field day and, you know, hanging out with us for a bit. Any other check-ins, come on in with your call sign, your name, where you're transmitting from, and if you've seen the movie. All right, nothing heard. November 5, Hotel Yankee Papa. Tom, what do you think of the plot?
I pretty much agree with everything that Billy said just a couple of minutes ago, because you're not going at this movie to find great intellectualism. This is a romp. And it, like she said, and I really disliked Temple of Doom. I just thought it was so dark, and it just wasn't fun. But this movie recaptured the fun of the original Raiders of the Lost Ark. It was great. I think the plot interaction, or the interaction of the father and the son character, seeing Sean Connery in the movie, knowing that he's done all these action adventure things as James Bond. I mean, I'm popping into character. You have to talk about character when you talk about plot, and that was kind of a drive to kind of watch that interaction grow, and so that is part of the plot. Is watching the interaction, and eventually getting the satisfaction of watching all our old friends ride off into the sunset at the end of the movie. That's kind of the best part. Nice way to close the whole series off. And again, I got to give it to Spielberg. I mean, from a plot standpoint, I mean, if you're going to do an action story, Spielberg did a great job of driving the action. And shooting the action, and you know, the score by John Williams again is just marvelous. His stuff always is. He reinvented the movie score in a way that you know, everybody wants to duplicate. So that's my shtick, and I'm sticking to it. I'm taking down more antenna stuff now. This is N5HYP. By the way, I've been doing field day from the patio. So, not in the house, on the patio. Back to net, N5HYP.
N5HYP. Good luck and be safe tearing down your equipment for the night. We'll catch you around again on the next round here. I'll be sure to kind of space you out here a little bit so that way you're not immediately called up, because I understand you're probably a little bit busy here. All right, so now it's my turn, technically, but I feel like I've already kind of said a lot. You know, this movie, the plot is very straightforward. I do have to say, of most of the Indiana Jones movies, it does have one of the more deeper plots, especially when it comes to characterization, which is coming up next, they really do a good job, I think, at really establishing Indiana Jones, at truly defining who he is and where he comes from and why is he this, crazy adventurer, archaeologist kind of person. And, it really gives a decent backstory to the character, which I feel the other movies don't really do as good of a job, which they're action movies. You don't really need a lot of backstory to enjoy an action movie. That's not what they're about. So, this is K5ANE Net Control for the Afterglow Movie Net on W5FC. And I think that probably completes our first round here, talking about Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. So now we're going to move on to characterization. And for this, I'm just going to pick some random names here on the list, and we'll just go through and we'll talk about the characters. Let's start off with KG5BZW, Jake in Weatherford. What do you think of the characters?
Well, I mean, you got, Sean Connery doing what he does, and Harrison Ford doing what he does. I mean, I know those aren't the actors, but they're playing their action role figure characters. And just I have to admit, I almost feel like I wish I'd seen this just to get characters need to go a little more depth, and I just don't remember. I will say it didn't quite have that much. It was, I guess, it was just what really was about their interactions and how one draws another into a thing, and then this whole back and forth, which I think it was in other movies too. I feel like I'm going back to the plot, but like in the other two movies, you really had some definite. But certainly in the Lost Ark, you knew who the bad guys were. Well, of course, you always, got the Nazis and whatnot you're fighting here. It just wasn't nearly. You didn't necessarily know where it was going to go, and that's what was kind of cool about it too. Just the unpredictability of it. I know, more plot stuff. Well, I'm supposed to be talking about characters. Without Harrison Ford and Sean Connery, you don't really have that much of a movie. Yeah, I mean, or some similar, I don't know who else could have played. I mean, obviously you want Harrison Ford to be Indiana Jones, and I don't know, they did pretty good with Sean Connery. I didn't think there was another person I knew they some. I guess I should have gone to the IMDb, see what some of the trivia was about. Of course, Sean Connery and Harrison Ford are really a lot closer in age than you would hope for an actual relationship. Let me reset. So, always kind of found out a little bit comical, but I can't think of anything else right now. I'll head to the next person, KG5BCW.
AG5BZW, this is K5ANE, net control for the Afterglow Movie Net on W5FC. Alright, time to pick another random person to let's talk about some characters in this movie. We'll pick WB5OZL. Brenda, what do you think of the characters?
This is WB5OZL. Well, what's not to like with James Bond and Indiana Jones? We love these characters. We just do, because they have all this charisma, and they're exciting, and they use whips, just pretty exciting. In all these movies, everybody, there's stereotypes, but that's okay. We just like it. The thing is, there's a fine line between making it stupid and making it fun and interesting and entertaining, and they succeed because they're really good movie makers. And they're so good at delivering those lines that it's just perfect. The other characters, same thing. A lot of these we've seen before. Of course, the woman, I'd like to scratch her hair out, but that's just me. I thought she was very unlikable, even when she kind of got changed at the end. But that's okay. That tramp was after Indiana, so to heck with her. Glad she died. I'm told I'm a terrible person. You'll have to pick up something more original than that. I've heard that before. All right, I better quit before I embarrass myself more. WB5OZL.
WB5OZL. Despite the fact of sharing a similar last name to the Dr. Schneider, I was actually quite pleased when she finally fell down into the endless pit of despair that she finds herself at the end. With her greed being the reason why she's there. It's kind of fitting for her to find herself there. Let's continue on, and we'll take another person to talk about characterization. Let's go KF5PDS, Billy and Sherman. What'd you think of the characters?
Great, well, thanks. Jones, his rough and tumble character, he always gets in situations, but he always manages to get out of them. So it's always, and sometimes not always the most efficient way, So sometimes, he finds things, situations, he gets in a pickle and it's hard to get out of. So, but he finally manages to pull through. So he's a good protagonist to follow. I love the whole dynamic with the father, with Henry Jones Sr. and Jr., and the fact that he was, kept belittling him in front of, Nazis, calling him Junior, and he finally grabbed the machine gun and just barreled away and killed all the Nazis and was like, "Don't call me Junior." So he was still chafing against his father's, gruff exterior. Even, 26 years later, he and his dad still find it, difficult to talk to one another. Indy finds it hard to talk to his dad. Maybe his dad not so much, but it's just fun to watch that dynamic. And finally, Indy at the end, when he calls him Junior, you finally see him just sigh and say, "Yes, sir." And he just has to realize he's going to never live that down. He's always going to be Junior to his senior. So, and I love that Sala thought it was hilarious that Indy was named after the dog. That's probably a major insult in his culture, but it was funny. So I love that Sala got a kick out of that. And Sala is just your great valet, man's man. He's the the guy who gets things done. He takes care of all the nitty-gritty details. I love that they brought Marcus Brody along. You know, he provided valuable insight when it was needed, but then he also was so quirky and weird and fun. You know, just like he gets his own museum, and he's just so proper British guy that, you know, Englishman, that he's, you know, sometimes doesn't quite fit the scene. He sticks out like a sore thumb, but it's fun to watch him and Henry Jones Sr., especially when they do their university club toast. I love that moment when they run across each other in the tank. They're like old school chums, you know, and that was just a really fun moment. Another character I really enjoyed was River Phoenix as the young Indiana Jones. River Phoenix was such a stunning actor and just gone way too soon. It was such a heartbreak when he died at such a young age. He was like 23. But he was the perfect young Indy because he could deliver the lines with the same sarcasm and dry wit that Harrison Ford delivers. So he was an excellent choice for young Indiana Jones, and that was just so fun to watch. But yeah, just there's lots of different dynamics in this film, but especially with Indy and his dad, that's just the best, you know. And I love that. Yeah, I can't believe you just did that, and I should have mailed it to the Marx Brothers. That's my other favorite moment when he realizes that Indy has the book on him, and I wrote it down so I wouldn't have to remember. Just all the great lines, and you can just hear the Scottish brogue peeking through, especially when he gets excited, and I think that's fun to hear, but just some very highly quotable lines, and it's just really fun to see him and his dad on an adventure together, and his dad, you can tell, just doesn't quite get it, you know, but by the end, I think he finally falls in with the rest, and it all works out. So some great characterizations, some great dynamics between parent and child, and just seeing young Indy too, just great all-around characterization that I enjoyed very much. So with that, I'll return it to you. This is KF5's PDF, back to net.
KF5 PDS, this is K5 A&E, net control for the Afterglow Movie Net tonight on W5FC. Let's continue on, continue to talk about characterization. KE5 ICX, what do you think of the characters?
What can I say? It's always interesting. By the way, I was talking to Brenda over here and mentioned that, you know, Indiana Jones, when they say the dog was named after, we named the dog Indiana Jones, I think that was George Lucas, who co-wrote this with Spielberg, actually had a dog named Indiana Jones, and this was back in the 1977 Star Wars special, where they interview him. And somehow or another that came up in conversation. So I thought that was kind of interesting in and of itself. Characterizations. I loved, who is it? Ernst Vogel, the SS Colonel. He was good. What a great Nazi he is. Looks good in uniform. Somebody you'd like to have at a party at the torture session afterwards, because he seems to know everything. It's really nice. He probably knows some really good music and can dance and, you know, stuff like that. He seems like a really outstanding guy. Let's see, other characters. Michael Sheard was good as Adolf Hitler. He was good. He was in Berlin and everything. It was a non-speaking role, though. So I don't know. Let's see, what else can I say? I wasn't paying attention. I was looking at the airplanes crashing. I'm still looking. I'm trying to see. There might be something in here. Donovan was good. He was pretty good as a really bad guy, the industrialist. He was quite fun. He also appeared as General Veers in Empire Strikes Back. I thought I had seen that guy somewhere before. He just happened to be in the film. So he played the same character, I guess. All right, I'm coming up a little empty on this, but especially after the last few comments were so fantastic. as far as characterizations and how it all worked out, I can't say a lot more to that at all. Donovan is... interesting. Okay, back to net control. KE5ICX.
KE5ICX, this is K5ANE, net control for the Afterglow Movie Net. And I definitely agree with you that the guy playing the Nazi colonel, gosh, he plays that role almost a little too well, in my opinion. Excellent performance out of him. And let's continue on. I'm going to be calling on WT9B next, but just to let you know, N5HYP, you'll be up after WT9B. So, keep an ear to the radio as you continue to tear down your field day equipment. WT9V, what do you think of the characters?
First I'd like to say I'm not hearing any traffic noise in the background, so don't worry about that. You're sounding really good. Secondly, I think I'm going to take a page out of Tom's playbook and say, well, gee, everything that's been, that can be said about the characters has already been said. Dad was Dad. He did an amusing job of that. Indy was the typical, slapdash person that he is, and all of the way he manages to always end up in the water, in the mud, and falling through something, and then managing to save himself. That was what we expected from Indiana Jones. And while Brenda seems to have a problem with the characterization of the Nazis as being bad guys, the Nazis were all, great bad guys, and that's kind of the way they were. It's actually pretty easy to do that. It's pretty easy to typecast a Nazi, I gotta say. But there probably weren't, too many Florence Nightingale Nazis out there that were trying to save all of the rest of us. Or at least if there were, they didn't tell us about that in school. All right, back to that, WT9V.
WT9V, thanks for that signal check. And let's continue on. N5HYP, what do you think of the characters?
Hey, this is N5HYP. I'm winding down here. Again, you can't say much. This is not on Golden Pond. This is Indiana Jones, and so we know to expect a hard-nosed Harrison Ford playing a hard-nosed Indiana Jones. Kind of the interesting, I guess, twist was that Sean Connery, playing, more of a doddering old guy who did spend most of his archaeological career, I think, in libraries. Sorry, sneezing there. But so it was kind of opposite of his Bond characters. So that was kind of an interesting little twist. I mean, he could have been as Bondish as he had been, but that's not the way he and Spielberg played it. So that's my take on characters. And I think I'm going to be done because now I got to take apart the satellite antenna, which is how I'm talking to you now. So off we go. 73 from N5HYP.
N5HYP, thanks for stopping by. We appreciate your input. Join us again next week, same time, same channel. We'll announce what movie it is later. If you join us on the Facebook group or the email, you'll find out, or just keep listening on W5FC. Somebody will probably bring it up. All right, so let's go ahead and check and see, are there any other check-ins for the Afterglow Movie Net? Did you see the movie? The movie this week was Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. If you saw the movie, or if you didn't, feel free to come on in with your call sign, your name, or where you're transmitting from, and if you saw the movie or not.
Whiskey 5, Echo Bravo Bravo. Yes, I saw it.
All right, I think I caught November 5, Echo Bravo Bravo. Yes, you saw the movie. Is that right?
It's Whiskey 5, Echo Bravo Bravo. Yes, I saw it.
All right, Whiskey 5, Echo Bravo Bravo. Yes, you saw the movie. Anyone else out there, come on in with your call sign, your name, and if you saw the movie or not. All right, nothing heard. Whiskey 5, Echo Bravo Bravo. Since you're joining us here on round 2, where we were talking about characterization, feel free to talk about both the plot and characterization, and, whatever it is you want to say. Go ahead.
Well, I'll just talk about characters. The plot was covered very well earlier. And, I actually have this on Blu-ray, the whole collection of Indiana Jones movies. And some people, obviously, including myself, kind of forgot that there's a fourth movie, The Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, which I think I may have watched once, but it's apparently a very forgettable one, because this does seem like it should be a trilogy. The second movie was marginal, but the fourth one is totally forgettable, I guess. Let me reset. So the characters, yeah, I mean, this is Indiana Jones through and through, but there were some interesting actors, and for example, Paul Maxwell, the guy who played the man with the Panama hat and the cane, who gets his comeuppance near the beginning in the Coronado ship explosion. You may not have recognized him, but he's the same actor as played Van Leeuwen in Aliens, in the board meeting where, he said, was set for self-destruct by you, and he also played Colonel Steve Zodiac in Fireball XL5. So I'm a fan of Paul Maxwell, as it turns out, because I like him in those other roles as well. The Nazis should have learned in Raiders of the Lost Ark not to covet these religious artifacts. Now, fortunately, Junior listens to Dad when he tells him, Indiana, let it go. And the Shriner man, his dying words to the bad guy, Nazi, says that he's a messenger from God, and that for the unrighteous the cup of life holds everlasting damnation. But the Nazis just wouldn't listen. And this movie has one of the great quotes that I have used in many circumstances since I've seen that movie. They can be applied to classic fails seen in everyday life. He chose poorly. Great line. W5EBB.
W5EBB, this is K5ANE, net control for the Afterglow Movie Net on W5SD. Yeah, definitely. This movie has got quite a number of really quotable lines, for sure. And, I guess this is my turn now to talk about characterization. I felt that of all the movies, once again, this is kind of a explanation on who Indiana Jones really is. It starts off with his childhood and whatnot. And I definitely thought it was interesting that they really used the opening with the cross of Coronado and whatnot, and showing Indiana Jones's determination to get the end goal, across decades, and just, he's just driven on this singular thing of let's get this cross. It belongs in a museum. I'm going to go and make sure that happens, whether I'm right or wrong. That's what I need to do, and I'm going to get there and get it done. And we see the same thing with the quest for the Grail with Indiana's father and with Indiana in the end. Although, especially at the beginning, Indiana definitely states many times, I'm just trying to find my father, the whole Grail thing, whatever, In reality, they're both very similar to each other in that they're very driven to get this end goal, and nothing's going to get in their way to stop them from actually getting and doing what they see is right. Interesting movie. Definitely the deepest characters, I think, of all of the Indiana Jones movies. And once again, this is just one of my favorite Indiana Jones movies. All right. So now we're on round 3 of this net, where we're free to talk about special effects or anything else that you found interesting about the movie. I'm just going to go from the top back down to the bottom. Let's start off again. KE5ICX. What else you got to say about the movie?
How'd they kidnap Henry Jones? That's what I want to know. What did they do? Put him in a box? They ship him UPS? Did they send him over in the blimp? How'd they get him there? And then once they got him there, and Junior sprung him, how'd they get on the blimp going back to America before it turned around? Did he have his passport? Indy had his passport, I'm sure, or not. But Henry didn't have his passport. Or did he? Well, he had his bag. And they let him keep his passport? Well, that's true, they did. All right, then if he had his passport, what's the point of him having the bag? Was he allowed to take the bag with him? In the box that they put him in on the blimp? These are good questions. Only because I was shouting them as loud as I could in the theater the first time I saw it. So people appreciate that. They like to know when there are plot holes and there are problems. Let's see. Things I liked about the movie, of course. John Williams, great composer. We love him. He's been around since Lost in Space. So he really does a great job with the music. Let's see, what else do I have to say? Special effects look pretty good overall. A little bit of that green screen thing going on and the two-dimensional thing that you see today, that would all be digitally cleaned up. So you can see it more as an analog rotoscoping thing going on, which is more noticeable in these earlier films from in this case from '89. The tank, I don't know where they found that tank. That is a big tank. That is a fast tank. It's got a lot of room in it. It looks like you could play tennis in that thing. It's got that. And then how can a rock cause it to backfire? This ballistic item couldn't push this little piece of rock out? Well, okay. I know it's just a movie, but it does seem rather odd that would be, completely destroy the thing. It's not like he shoved it in there really, tightly to prevent the thing from going. So, I don't know. Overall, I like the blimp. I love blimps. Blimps are fun. KE5ICX.
KE5ICX, K5ANE, net control for the Afterglow Movie Net. I have to say, though, as far as how do they get on the blimp or the Zeppelin, well, I think they kind of tried to make it obvious that they snuck on, especially since Indiana is, wearing some, waiter's kind of outfit or something like that. He's some kind of flight attendant guy going around behind everybody. I think that's them trying to showcase the idea that, they're kind of sneaking on and they're not really, not really supposed to be there, no ticket, kind of a thing. So, not too big of a plot hole for me personally, and I think you might be surprised just how catastrophic having something lodged in your barrel can be when you're firing some guns. It's definitely not something you want to test, that's for sure. All right, let's continue on. WB5OZL, what else did you think of the movie?
This is WB5OZL. Well, I think it's like a banana up a tailpipe, you know. You wouldn't think it would do that much damage, but it just does. Yeah, this movie has such a good formula. All of them do have great formulas. Music, the sets, the costumes, the story. So, you know, it's not perfect. You can certainly pick it apart, but it's just fun. It's just the thing. It's just fun and entertaining. And this is the kind of movies you can watch over and over again. Now, I didn't like Crystal Skull very much either. And the second movie I didn't care for either. It was a little too dark for me. But this one was good. It was fun and I enjoyed it. Special effects were fine. Wasn't anything particularly brilliant there in terms of special effects. I mean, but it wasn't that kind of a movie. So, we have a lot of help here. All right, that's all I got for now. WB5OZL.
WB5OZL, this is K5ANE, Net Control for the Afterglow Movie Net. Let's continue on. WT9V, what did you think of the special effects, or anything else you have to say about the movie?
Well, I've pretty much run out of things to say at this point. I mean, you know, the special effects were fine, especially for that era. It was a big budget, big name movie. They were, you know, that was probably the best they could do. And I didn't notice anything. I didn't notice any special effects that were glaring, that really stood out as, you know, this is it. They didn't make me stop and go, ugh. You know, like some of the, especially some of the cheesy movies or the bad movies that we watch, the special effects just kind of knock you out of the moment. But these all blended in well enough that I thought they were all right. I don't know. I don't really have anything else all that entertaining to say at the moment. WT9V.
You know, I have to say that sometimes, like, some of the best special effects are the special effects that you just don't even really notice. And you don't even fully acknowledge that they're necessarily there, right? And there's so many action scenes that are going on in this movie, like, you know, that would be incredibly dangerous positions for these characters to be in. You know, with fires going off and explosions, and they're on, you know, fighting each other on top of a tank, you know, that falls off a cliff and all these things. And it's like, all these scenes that they're doing are just blending in as if, you know, that's what's happening. But, you know, in reality, I mean, they're not really in a cave in the opening scenes, you know, they're on some set someplace, you know, they're not really, you know, fighting each other on top of this tank, you know, but they do such a good job at controlling how everything looks that you really just kind of get immersed in it, and it just seems like, yeah, you know, like, I guess the special effects are pretty good. It's like, actually, special effects are pretty awesome if you think about it, and you really think about the shots that they're doing, and, yeah. Anyways, let's continue on. KG5BZW, what do you think of the special effects, or anything else to say about the movie?
This is KG5BZW. Yeah, I got to say, the sheer enormity of all the special effects that they had to put in there, and it just kind of seemed to fit in well. if I were to, not that I'm an expert or anything, but if I were to direct somebody to, this is how special effects are done well in a late 80s movie, I'd probably say this would be a good candidate for that. There's really, it's kind of interesting. You could argue the physics of sound and special effects wasn't quite right, but I mean, it's still. I'm remembering some sort of like like Mythbusters had something on the motorcycle, and probably maybe a couple of other scenes from the film. Whether or not something that would actually do something, and you're like, what would you have to do to make the motorcycle flip and whatnot? I know that was Mythbusters is like, yeah, no, that physics kind of didn't make it. But hey, it was really cool. Yeah, there's a lot that I barely recall, but it seems like it really, Steven Spielberg knew how to he knew. I always kind of associate good special effects with Steven Spielberg, and I guess he knew the besides himself as part of doing the photography and stuff or whatever. He knew the right people to help him, and I think we'll just leave it on that. KG5 BZW.
KG5 BZW, thanks for that. This is K5ANE, your net control for the Afterglow Movie Night here on W5FC. And we'll continue on. We've got KF5 PDS, Billy and Sherman. What do you think of the special effects, or do you have any other things to talk about with this movie?
I do have one other thing, but yeah, it's the special effects. Nowadays, it's interesting to go back and watch the older movies, especially with our high-definition TVs. You can clearly see the green screening. You can see like an outline around people, and you can tell where the green screen boundary is, which is a little unfortunate because, but even newer movies, when they went to digital projection, you could even see it like with higher def rates on like The Hobbit. You could kind of see the Hobbit feet, weren't, they were prosthetic, so it even happens with newer movies, but you can clearly see green screening in the film, but I don't know, to me it just plays to the campiness of the film, so I have no problem with it. I'm always impressed with all the pyrotechnics that go on in these films. They have to have split-second timing, and all the stunt people that pretty much put their lives on the line so that we can have a fun movie experience. I'm always in awe of the stuntmen who carry out these dangerous stunts. They're just amazing to watch, and it's such a grand, epic scale. Spielberg always does things on a larger-than-life scale, so I've always been impressed with the timing and the execution of all these dangerous special effects. They really, when done well, they create a very amazing effect for the viewer, so I'm just always in awe of that. The one thing I wanted to bring up was music. Tom already touched on John Williams. He does such marvelous music scores, and I didn't know he had been around since Lost in Space, so I'm going to have to go back and delve into his earlier work. The first thing I remember him for was Jaws, which was such an amazing, just simple but yet highly effective score, and then all the scores that he's done since then have just been epic. That man has just such a wonderful career and body of work. He is, a major contributor to the backbone of all of our movie experiences of my lifetime. So, You know, when looking at movie soundtracks, you know, John Williams pretty much wrote the soundtrack to our movie life, you know. There are other noted composers as well, that John Williams, especially for 70s and the 80s, he was the man. So I just love his music. And another interesting music note to go back and watch for when Harrison Ford, Indiana Jones, was first at the party when he was first meeting Walter Donovan, and his wife walks in and says, "Walter, you're neglecting your guests." If you listen in the background, you can hear the Imperial March Darth Vader theme being played on the piano. The reason for that is because the actor playing Walter Donovan, Julian Glover, also played General Veers in the Star Trek movies. So that's a nod to his contribution to the Star Wars films. So that's a fun thing to go back and listen for. So that's all I have. Looking forward to hearing what the next movie is going to be. So this is KF5PDS back to net.
KF5PDS. Thanks for that tip on the song. I need to go back and check that. That's super cool. I love seeing those little kind of nods into the the rest of the universe. You know, who knows? Maybe it's technically the same universe, but Star Wars and Indiana Jones takes place. I mean, you know, galaxy far, far away. You know, different time. Yeah, it could happen. Let's continue on. W5EBB. Any other notes on the special effects or any other notes on the movie? Feel free, go on.
All right, thank you. This is W5EBB. Yes, the music is great. You know, I was carefully listening to the music on the train fight, and I could hear elements of Battle of Endor from Return of the Jedi. So, you know, I mean, there's only a finite number of combinations and permutations of notes a composer can choose from. So even John Williams has to reuse some of his tried and true musical themes and phrases. But hey, it's a great score. The music is well matched to every scene. It's played by a real orchestra with a real conductor. It's very Johnny. The Leap of Faith scene was a good optical illusion, you know, involving perspective, and it kind of reminds you of some of the sidewalk chalk artists who would create these 3D illusions of depth. But the illusion only works from certain viewpoints, distance and angle. If you look at it from different viewpoints, change your perspective, then you can see the trick. It applies to unraveling illusions in optics and in other domains as well. W5EBB.
W5EBB, right? Things oftentimes become a lot more clear and obvious when you get a little bit different perspective in life, it seems. This is K5ANE, your net control for the Afterglow Movie Net, here on W5FC. So I guess now it's, you know what, let's just take another quick round of check-ins. If you saw the movie, or if you didn't see the movie, it doesn't really matter. Go ahead and come on in with your call sign, your name, where you're transmitting from, and if you did or did not see the movie.
November 5 Sierra, Quebec Alpha, Ron, beautiful downtown Dallas. What was the movie?
November 5, Sierra, Quebec Alpha. This last week's movie was Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
Okay, was that the second one or the third one?
I believe it's the third one in this series. KE5ICX, care to comment on that?
Yes, it's Return of the Indiana Jones Boys, yes.
Yeah, I've seen it, but not recently, and I think it's up on my on my list of things to revisit, but so I can't contribute too much to this. Just checking in, say hello. N5SQA.
Well, N5SQA, thanks for stopping by, and hopefully we'll catch you next week, too. I'm yet to figure out exactly what the movie is next week, but we'll announce that just after I'm done with my turn here. Ultimately, I gotta say, this movie is quite a textbook movie to understanding how to frame scenes. It's incredible the job that Steven Spielberg does at just building up scenes and making all the lighting just absolutely perfect. Especially, it's so incredibly obvious now, watching it, now that I'm a bit older and can understand such things, looking at the opening scenes when they're in the cave and how he controls the lighting on, you know, young Indiana Jones's face. You know, he's in darkness, but his friend steps forward and is in the light, you know, because Indiana Jones is sleuthing around through these caves, but his friend's kind of a bumbling idiot kind of person, is just, oh, yeah, okay, I'm in this cave, and just walks forward into the light. You know, the lighting that's done to cast a long shadow on the head honcho guy that's raiding the tombs and whatnot. You don't see his face either, like in Indiana Jones. And they're trying to, like, show some kind of parallel between that character and Indiana Jones, you know, like with the hat and everything else, and he's this rambunctious adventurer person, and that in some ways Indiana Jones, you know, isn't too different, you know, being this, Indiana Jones eventually becomes, you know, kind of a grave robber himself in a way, you know, but it belongs in a museum, you know, but yeah, I have to say, especially watching this now that I've, you know, been critically watching movies for several years now, it's really cool looking and seeing how Steven Spielberg sets up these shots, and there's just so much you can learn by watching movies like this. Anyways, that's about it from you. We've got a few more minutes here, so if anybody else has any final last-minute thoughts, come on in with your call sign, and I'll identify you, and we'll, you can share whatever kind of thoughts, whether about the movie or the net or anything like that. Come on in with your call sign.
KE5ICX.
WB5OZL.
Alrighty, KE5ICX, go ahead.
Alright, well, a couple of things, John Williams. I don't know, I guess maybe it's not common knowledge. It is to me because I love movie soundtracks so much, but John Williams was Johnny Williams back in the 60s, and in fact it was Irwin Allen who hired the young composer because he worked cheap back then. He'd worked with Paul Sawtelle for years and years with motion picture music. Even motion picture music. Sawtelle did Around the World in 80 days. What was that movie? I don't know, whatever it was. So John Williams made the transition with Towering Inferno and a couple other films. Poseidon Adventure, I believe, was his as well. So that's why he's got a very deep thing with music, going through all the Irwin Allen movies, television series, Lost in Space, Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, Time Tunnel, all of those. Now, my comment was in regards to Star Wars and the Indiana Jones movies, or more specifically, I guess, Steven Spielberg and George Lucas have always done nods, tip of the hat, nods to others' movies. As an example, in Close Encounters of the Third Kind, you'll find R2-D2 in frame, upside down on the mothership as it flies by. Or you'll remember in the second Indiana Jones movie, you'll see it's the Obi-Wan theater that you get like a half frame shot of it when they leave the theater. So that's common. So it doesn't surprise me, and it does surprise me. I missed that cue, the musical cue with the Empire music in the background. So that is done deliberately. You'll see that a lot between those two guys, although they're getting kind of long in tooth. I don't think they're doing as many films. Lucas is completely out. He's doing small films now. I think at parties. Back to you, KE5ICX.
KE5ICX, thanks for that. This is K5ANE, your net control for the Afterglow Movie Net. I'll go ahead and call on WB5OZL as well. Do you have something to share?
Yes, WB5OZL. I hope everybody noticed the Wilhelm scream. It was from, in case you don't know the history, from an old movie, and was resurrected during the original Star Wars with a stormtrooper. And pretty much every one of these movies since, all the Star Wars and Indiana Jones movies, have snuck a Wilhelm scream in there somewhere, so it's pretty obvious. I'd like to do it here on the air, but I probably better not do that. This guy fell off a rock, and one of the Arab guys, and he screamed. So you'll know it if you know what to look for. All right, back to net, WB5OZL.
WB5OZL, yes, the Wilhelm scream is definitely well known and appears in all kinds of movies. Not necessarily just Steven Spielberg and George Lucas movies. It's just kind of become its own meme across tons of movies, and you'll kind of hear it everywhere, it seems. Any other comments or questions for the net? Come on in with your call sign. All right, nothing heard. Let's go on to the moment we've all been waiting for. KE5ICX. What's next week's movie?
Will it be a hit, or will it be a miss? Will it be a dreamboat or a dud? You make the call, because I think it could be the latter. The movie is, I had never heard of it before. It's called The Bamboo Saucer from 1968. It looks interesting. From KE5ICX.
The Bamboo Saucer. That's definitely going to be an interesting one. Look forward to seeing that for sure. And yeah, so this probably concludes our net. We meet here every week on Saturdays at about 10:30 after the stargazing net. Oh my gosh, I'm suddenly drawing a blank as to what that net is. I'm sure KE5ICX will correct me here in a second when I'm done transmitting with what that net is, which I also highly recommend checking out here on W5FC. And time to wrap things up. I'll catch you guys later. 73.
You're actually going to do a movie that I remember watching when I was a kid. WT9V.
You've seen that thing?
I have, and it had a saucer in it, and it wasn't made out of bamboo.
If you say so. Okay, anybody listening out there, I'll just thank you, Kane, for doing the net. You did a great job, and there were a lot of great participation. If you'd like to find out what the movie is ahead of time, check your email, and you'll get whatever the movie is. Usually it's on a Sunday. Tomorrow morning, probably, I'll put it out. Sometimes it's a Monday, but you always get a full week Otherwise, go to Afterglow Movie, 2 words,
Elvis?
Afterglow and Movie at Facebook, and you can sign up there, and I'll approve you. But if you don't like that, then send me an email at, you ready for this? Please copy, Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-Ray, KE5ICX at yahoo.com, and I'll put you on the list, and then you'll receive the note when it comes out. With a link, we usually try and find free links to the movies. Usually they're public domain or YouTube or have commercials otherwise. If it is a pay film of some sort, we'll put that link in as well. Most of the time we do the free movies whenever possible, so with commercials. There you have it. See you all next time. Time to watch West of Mars, Lost in Space with John Williams music. See you later. Bye.
Question for Tom, if you're still on station from W5EBB.
Yeah, go ahead, David.
Which was better, Lost in Space theme music 1 or Lost in Space theme music 2?
Oh, by far. Well, if you're talking about, with 3 seasons, they had variations. The first theme was first and second season. Third season, I thought was superior. I loved it very much. I thought it was one of John Williams' best scores. And when they reconstituted, revived the series for Netflix, the fellow, I can't think of his name now, who did the music, he wrote his own kind of opening music and then transitioned into the John Williams theme with a full orchestra. It's fantastic. And when you listen, I have the album from the new series, which, by the way, the guy is no slouch. I can't think of his name right now. But the whole third season theme is just fantastic with a full orchestra. I love it to death. So yeah, the third season I think was the best music.
All right, that's a good response. It's a very syncopated kind of a melody. The tempo of it. It's actually kind of difficult to play because I did hear like an orchestra try to play it and they were a little bit off. But if you got a really good orchestra and they really practice it, I bet it could sound great. W5EBB.
W5FC.
Yeah, if you really want a treat, you can find the third season theme, of course. But in the new series, which, by the way, is going into its third season, the new series, you'll find a couple of, during the music intro is quite good. If you watch that, you'll kind of get it. It's rather cool. And then closing credits, there's a couple of versions that are quite good that they do. And if you're the third season fan, music, you're definitely going to like it. It is very rousing rendition of the third season music.
Okay, very good. I will be on the lookout for that. Thanks for your comment. I appreciate it. I'll be clear. W5EBB.
All right, see you, David. Have a good evening. Yeah, it's been a long day. There's still people out there working. I see one in the backyard still making contacts. What a guy. All right, see y'all later. This is KE5ICX. I'm clear.
This is K5ANE. Thanks for everyone's participation tonight. I'll be clear. 7-3.